JD Vance claims they lowered crime in DC by 35% in 9 days. Does he know that's not even possible? At this point, this administration just spews lies they know can't be backed up by any evidence, but for some reason still gets spread around, and I actually blame Twitter for this. Twitter is the only reason President Trump won the presidency.
We had our top people, Wasserman. They all came in on the Olympics, and then I saw Johnny. And we got the World Cup, too. And, you know, it's only because they rigged the election that I'll be your president representing you there. You know, I got both of them. I got the Olympics, and I got the World Cup. And I said, you know, it's too bad. One was in 2026, and the other was in 2028. And I said, I won't be there. I won't be your president. But then they rigged the election, and now we won, so I'm going to be your president for the Olympics.
Let's watch this video of JD Vance claiming they lowered crime by 35% in 9 days and not the mayor over the course of years.
So your pal Gavin Newsom calls this an abuse of power, that this is just a power grab, and this is all stunt for show, and that you all are going to roll through other cities. You've heard things about, oh, martial law is going to be declared.
Yep.
And to that you say?
Well, first of all, how is it a power grab or how is it a stunt when we've already declined murders by 35% in 9 days?
9 days.
How many people are living and breathing today because Donald Trump had the willpower to say, you know what, we're sick of D.C. being a home to lawlessness. We're going to bring some public order back to the nation's capital.
Trump had the willpower yet again to take the credit of another Democrat making good changes for America.
So what I would say to Gavin Newsom or to anybody else in some of these big blue states or big blue cities is you can have law and order, you can have common decency, you can have public spaces that young families can go to again.
And that's what they already had. You did nothing but create chaos and cause unorder. It's no wonder Trump wanted to fire the previous administration's statistic counter and put new ones in charge, because he just wants a bunch of liars around him, and in exchange, they get paid very, very well. And it's actually a shock to see how fast people will sell their souls to get a little bit of money.
And so one of the takeaways is not just that the Republican Party base is somehow fundamentally flawed in a way that's unique in American political history. It's that Trump is a really bad candidate and, frankly, I think a really bad person.
Well, as we can see with everybody around Trump, who they were before to who they were after working for Trump, they'll do it lickety split. Here's another video of JD Vance saying we need to get rid of homeless people.
And I don't know for the life of me what happened in this country where we decided that the compassionate thing was to let somebody fester on the streets instead of get the treatment that they need. It's very simple to me.
What is that treatment, JD Vance? Where do we send them? What do we do with that?
And I don't know why we accept it as parents and as grandparents and as people who just want to walk down the street in comfort. Why we accept it
without seeing people who have lost everything. Why can't they just disappear from this country?
Why we accepted that it was reasonable to have crazy people yelling at our kids.
How dare you be homeless and disoriented when the government is not there for you, when you may have fell in a bad place in your life and some of you want to get back on your feet, but how dare you exist around me still? Why are you here?
You should not have to cross the street in downtown Atlanta to avoid a crazy person yelling at your family. Those are your streets, paid for with your...
Do you even live in Atlanta? Can you even speak on this subject? What are you talking about? The only time I've ever seen someone cross the street to avoid somebody was me when I moved to a racist area.
Paid for with your tax dollars, and you ought to be able to use them like any other citizen of this country.
A rich person telling poor people, look, I'm not the enemy, it's even more poor people. I don't get how anybody can actually watch this stuff and be like, yeah, he's making a lot of sense. I think we've all been to a point to where we've lost faith in humanity for a small period of time. When we realize just how evil people can be, and if something doesn't involve them, how quickly they will turn their nose, but the second they're in that situation, they want help again. It is baffling to me that common decency is not common and common sense is uncommon. And at this point, are we just drastically overestimating the average level of intelligence in the US? Are you actually just smarter than the average population, which is why you can see these things, but they can't see them themselves as they live these hypocritical lives, right? Like awareness, right? Awareness should be like the baseline level of intelligence, but people don't have that apparently because there's people supporting videos and statements like this. Like we need to get rid of homeless people and we lowered crime in 9 days by 35% by saying words because I'm that powerful. Everybody look at me. I can give the word and make something happen like I'm God. Here's a poll. DC residents feel less safe after Trump takeover. Roughly 8 in 10 Washington, D.C. residents oppose President Trump's ordering the federal government to take over the city's police department. So everybody cheering for what Trump's doing in D.C. doesn't live in D.C. because 80% of D.C. wants him to go away and say he's making things worse and making them feel unsafe and scared than them just living in their own city without him. Oh, it gets worse. Overall, a 79% majority of D.C. residents oppose Trump's order, according to the survey, with only 17% supporting the order. Most 69% say they're strongly opposed. You know what? I have a great idea. How about we make Donald Trump join the National Guard and we deploy him to DC? How about we do that? That way he can fight this imaginary crime that's been lowered by 35% in 9 days. And I'm not saying there's not crime in DC. We all know there's crime that happens in the world, but we also know Trump likes to balloon problems and then show up and then pop the balloon and say, by the way, the problems that I said were this big are now gone because I was there. They were never there. They were just balloon. And the only person that has the needle to pop it is him. I just can't believe he has a fan base behind this. But again, this is the problem with Twitter. Twitter was the first time I've seen an entire community be so hopelessly lost because they're just getting regurgitated and refed the same information and lies over and over again to where they start to believe it's the truth. They're talking about research, but their research is literally an AI algorithm designed to keep them on the app longer, which is just giving them a bunch of hate content that their family also sees. And now there's a community of hate and it grows and spreads. Twitter is one of the worst social media apps to ever be overtaken by another person because at first it was there, right? But now it's the most toxic, worst thing that ever happened to America. I would even label Twitter as a terrorist organization. No wonder Elon Musk didn't want Kamala to win. You know she was going to deal with that. That thing is terrible. So when Elon Musk says Trump would not have won the presidency without me, I fully believe him. Especially with that satellite exploding right after the election. How interesting and conveniently timed.
Wow, what the heck?
How cool is that?
Now here is JD Vance blaming illegal aliens on the reason why housing costs have gone up. Mind you, these same people that complain so much about illegal immigrants are hiring H-1Bs to pay them less than having to hire an actual American. So this has nothing to do with American jobs and pricing at all.
You've got to stop putting the interests of foreigners who don't have the right to be here over the interests of American citizens. That is the entire point and purpose of the Democratic Party. If you go back to the election of 2024.
This is that South Park episode over and over again. They took our job.
What was the big issue? The big issue was illegal immigration.
Hey everybody, stop looking at my mistakes. You need to hate this person. This is your enemy. They're doing it to you. It's the colored people.
What was the big issue? The big issue was illegal immigration. They were actually defending the rights of illegal immigrants to come into our country, to vote in our elections, to collect Social Security and Medicaid.
They could never collect Social Security.
That ought by right go to American citizens, to say nothing of housing. This is actually the biggest driver of housing costs in some of these big blue cities, is that they've flooded the zone with illegal immigrants. In some of
the biggest driver of housing costs, not Blackstone, BlackRock, these big corporations buying up 35% of housing in America and then collectively coming together to raise rent prices so no one can fight it because everyone's doing it and there's not really a lower place to go to. It's not them. It's the Mexicans.
As we kicked illegal aliens out of our country, you actually see housing costs start to level off.
It takes an idiot to become the vice president nowadays. He is actually this stupid.
So fundamentally, the difference between Republicans and Democrats is we care about American citizens. They actually don't like American citizens and want to replace them with low-wage foreigners. It's a very stark difference, and I think the American people are going to continue to reward us because of it.
All right.
They're lying! It's them! They're the one hiring H-1Bs over Americans. Everything they say is a confession. It's so baffling. I like to look at things critically. I like to look. in American government, you actually learn that most people, you're not Republican or Democrat. Most people actually have some ideas that would be considered Republican, and they have some ideas that would be considered Democrat. It just depends on where things go and what makes more sense. This red versus blue, Crips versus blood introduction that came with Trump, not only does it not exist, not only is it an imaginary beef, but every time I hear something like a complaint, it's usually from somebody like him complaining about these imaginary Democrats, of this imaginary evil of magnitude that in the end comes back to the person talking about it, and they were doing it the whole time. The Epstein list, they want to hire H-1Bs. Bruh, it's you, bruh. I'm gonna give y'all the exclusive footage of the most legitimate video I've seen on JD Vance I've ever seen before. People do not like you, JD Vance. You have failed America. You are a clown. You are a liar. You are mischievous. You are just as bad as Donald Trump, and it's no wonder you are his side man. You went from saying Trump is a PDF, he's the worst person, he has no morals, ethics, and values, and it turned out to be you. Let me know what y'all thought about this video. Go ahead and drop a comment, a like. Please make sure to subscribe. Did you like more satire in this video, or would you prefer me to be more neutral? Go ahead, drop your recommendations. I'll make sure to take a look, and I hope you have a great day.